Hey friends, so glad to see all of you out there. Hello and welcome to another Running with Scissors. We are here to have some fun with paper and ink today and get crafty and ready for the weekend. I hope you guys are excited as I am to be hitting another weekend here. It's been really great weather in the middle of the US and we're full into fall. I've got some nice fall colors on today and I'm really excited about this time of year. So glad to see you guys trickling in. If you are new to the channel, I would love for you to pop into the chat and just say hello and tell us where you're from. Everyone that joins along is from all across the world, so I'm so glad to have an international. Ooh. How about that? Is that better? Thank you, Sue, for letting me know. I just didn't have my microphone turned up. I was all just blah 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 about the weather and all sorts of great things. So anyway, here we are. Should be good now. So there we go. Thank you, Nancy. Thanks for everyone for letting me know. Otherwise, we could have gone for a while without some good sound. I always forget to turn up my microphone. Anyway, hey, so we are going to be working on another great project today with the Concord and 9th mail drop stamp set. So that is a awesome interactive stamp set, and it's going to be really fun. So if you happened to catch the technique video that I put out earlier this week, let me know, because we're going to be doing that technique today. We're going to be doing some ink smooshing, and we're going to be doing some contrasting complementary colors, which can be hard to do. You can sometimes turns a little muddy or what have you, but we're going to put that technique into practice in today's project, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So let me show you, we're going to go through some quick announcements. They're the same from last week. Nothing has changed. Just so you know, November's plan is to do glitter and shine. So we'll be doing some techniques and using some glittery and shiny stuff all month long to get us ready for the holiday season. Also, make sure that you are on the Bloom waiting list. I will be opening that soon again for new registrations, and I would love to have you as a part of that growing community. If you are inspired by any of the projects that I create on this channel or any of the techniques that I share, I would love to see how your inspiration turns out. So when you share it on Instagram, do tag me at Nicole Watt Creates. I would love to see what it is that you're creating and how you were inspired by what I share. I really, really appreciate it that you guys pop into this channel every week and hang out with me and do some crafty stuff. If you happen to need to do any crafty shopping, I would love for you to use my affiliate links. I put all of my project supplies in the description of every video. Those are affiliate links, so when you click on them, I might receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. It's a great way to support all of your crafty artists out here on YouTube and other social channels. If you would prefer to support me directly, I do have a tip jar. You can click on that down in the description below or in the pinned comment in today's chat and leave me a direct tip. I do appreciate that. Everything goes back into this channel, improving things, creating amazing content for you guys, and keeping everything up and running over here. So thank you. All right, so one of the things, let's see, let me show you today's project. Oh, Nancy wants to know, will I be having a session on Thanksgiving? Probably not. I will probably be eating turkey and watching movies or watching football or, you know, some good old American stuff on Thanksgiving. So thanks for asking, and I'll keep you guys posted. Okay, so let's take a look at today's project. Here it is. It's so cute. We've got some ink smooshing going on, and then we've got our little interactive part here, which is this little sentiment in here. So this turns into a birthday card because it's got the happy birthday sentiment, and that's just tucked right in there in that little teeny tiny card. It's so meta, right? Because it's like a card in a card. It's adorable. And of course you can't see it on the inside because it's all hidden and tucked away behind. Now I wanted to share with you guys this specific cardstock that I'm using for this card. So it is this right here, It is Winsor & Newton's rough grain watercolor paper. It is 100% cotton. It is I believe this is a cold press, but it is got a ton of texture to it. And you're really going to see that when we do our ink smooshing. So let me see if I can get, oh, there we go. You see, look at all that amazing texture. It's so full of texture. You guys are going to love it. Okay, so this is what I'm using today. Just wanted to point that out to you. It is in the description down below. All right, so if you are inspired and you really like the way that the paper looks, it's definitely worth having in your stash. Okay, so I also wanted to remind you guys that every week on my blog, I do a recap of the live stream, and I'm changing that up. The recap is going to start coming out Thursday evening instead of Friday morning. So right after we're done here, the blog post should go out, and it is going to have the download link for your PDF. So this is a full color printable PDF. It's got links, and if you keep it in the PDF format, you can link over to both the shopping list and this video. And you can use your QR codes as well if you've got it printed out and you want your phone to get to something. And then of course there is all of the instructions. So you've got full instructions and then the supplies list. And I always keep a list of standard supplies that you might want to have on hand. So, and all of these are linked out. So if you do keep this electronically, you'd be able to just click on these to go do some shopping if you need to. And then of course there's a QR code to get to shopping as well, or the QR code and the links to get to the video. So this will be coming out live right after this video. It should go live at, I think I have it set up to go live at 6 o'clock local time for me. So an hour after we end here, just to make sure that if I have any problems, I can fix whatever I need to in the post before it goes live. But I shouldn't. It should be good to go. Okay, let's get to crafting. Here we are. Yay. All right, so here's some fun stuff with this card. So not only are we ink smooshing, we're also doing a fun pattern on the back. And the pattern, instead of doing it in black, I thought I would do it in a really nice color that kind of brings everything together. Since we're going to be using purples and pinks and blues and stuff like that, I thought why not use a purple colored ink as well to do the little stamped images. And so I'm using VersaFine Clair, and that's because my watercolors are not going to shift this as soon as it gets watercolor on it. So it's going to stay nice and solid in place, and it's going to look really cool. So on this one, I did a really nice pattern. We'll see if I can replicate that or not. And it doesn't really matter how the pattern ends up because it's really just a background thing. So if you wanted to, you can do something very structured like I did here. Or you can go completely unstructured and just kind of float it around. You can add, because this stamp set has a couple of different things in it, right? It's got hearts, it's got this other little envelope stamp. You could do lots of different things. You could even add the snails in there if you wanted to. So I've got a really nice structured one here. Let's do something a little more fun on this one. I don't know, they're both fun, but one is going to be less structured than the others. So I'm going to zoom us in just a little bit. Okay, so I've got my VersaFine Clair in Monarch, and you know I love VersaFine Clair. It lays down so nice. One of the reasons why I like to use it, especially with this watercolor, is that it's really going to give me a good impression. All right, so I'm trying to remind myself that I'm not doing a pattern here. I'm just going to do random on this particular card. So when I do random, even on a pattern, but especially on random, you want to make sure that your images rotate around and that they skew in different directions and that they go off the edge of the paper. All right, so you really definitely just want to kind of get it all around. That's actually probably good. Okay, so the other thing about VersaFine Clair is that it does wipe up with just water. So I've got my microfiber cloth here, and I can just clean those right up. Move on to my image. So let's add in some of these little hearts. So I'm going to do some of these little hearts in purple. I'm just going to keep the purple theme going. And remember to go off the page with them. We'll probably come back to the heart to fill in some spaces. That's good. And again, it cleans up perfectly with just a little bit of water. All right, and I've got this cute little snail. So I'm gonna pop him into some of these spaces. I feel like we've got another envelope that needs to go into that space, but there's not going to be enough room for it. So I'm going to talk you through that a little bit. Okay, so here we are. And I feel like there's this big empty void here, and there's not much that I can do about it. However, let's take a look at what our project looks like. Looks like what I will be able to do is just shift over my envelope to kind of fill in this void here. So what I'm going to do is add in just a couple more of these guys to kind of fill in that space. And then when I put the envelope here, you're never going to notice that there's like nothing else behind it. Okay. So there we go. A little random stamp versus the structured stamp. They both look really great together. Either way, I should say. So do what you like. Do both. Okay, so let's stamp a few other things so we can be finished with stamping, actually. I'm gonna need a piece of purple cardstock. I've got a nice little lavender color from Hero Arts, and I do happen to have an extra one of these flowers that I made when I was working on my sample. So I'm not going to actually demonstrate this one, but it's easy enough. It's just the same purple, and then I'm going to add just some of those single colors that we use for the ink smooshing to color in the flowers. So this is pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to set that aside. We will use that one. And let's do some other stamping. Okay, so what else do we need? Let's take a look. We need the envelope, and we need this sentiment piece here and the little pull here deal. So what I find is it's best to, for both of these pieces, to do the die cutting first. Okay. So for the envelope, what this is just basically your envelope with your score lines on it. And then this one, of course, little top hat looking thing is going to be your little pull tab. All right. So I've got my little mini blossom here. And I'm just going to run these through. All right, so now I've got an envelope that's got the scores all around the edges. And then here we'll do our for our sentiment. All right, so we'll come back and do some other die cutting later. So we still have to do, actually, the last thing we have to do is the hugs. So let's just do it. All right, so we've got a little piece of gold foil cardstock with some double-sided adhesive sheet on it already. All right, And this is going to get our hugs, which we're not going to come back to until like the very end. But since we're die cutting things now, we'll just do it. I'm making beads on Mini Blossom. Yep, so it looks like those cut all the way through. I'm just going to leave the die attached to that so I don't lose any pieces. Not bad. Little detour. And then we can go back to our... Now we can go back to our inking. Okay, so here's our little envelope. And this has little outline stamps that you can use or you can omit, either way. But it really works to just do one at a time. And again, I'm going to do those all in purple. All right, so this is your little bottom piece. And it just makes a little outline. Like so. All right, and what I've noticed with these is that placement isn't really precise necessarily. So you have to kind of be okay with it not being perfect. Or you have to use the MISTI and really get it lined up, because you see how that didn't quite land perfectly. Although I don't really mind on this one so much because you're never going to see this backside one actually, because the envelope is always open. Right, and then you have these little side pieces. And of course, there's one for each side. Like so. All right, now the sentiment, let's take a look at the card. So I gave myself some room on this one, and that is to make sure that when this comes all the way down, you don't see the words behind it. What I found was that just the way that I had this all spaced with the hole on the inside and everything, you didn't get to see the whole happy birthday sentiment. So what I'm going to do on this one is pull it up just a little higher, and then we're going to adjust the hole for this one, because you see how far down the hole is. It's like way down in there. I'm going to bring it up a little higher on this one. So we're going to make a few modifications. All right, so this is a longer sentiment. It's not going to fit on this block. And because it's a sentiment, sometimes it's easier to use a stamp positioner. So that way you don't, you know, rock it or, you know, get extra smudge on here. But I'm pretty confident in my stamping. And it keeps this from happening too. There we go. All right, and then we need a little pull here tab. I'm just going to do that on this scrap piece, and then we'll trim it out later. There. Okay. So we have stamping done. We have die cutting finished. We will have to do one other die cut to get that little slit in place for the interactive piece. All right, Paula's favorite piece of this whole thing. She's so afraid she might lose it. All right, now we can do some ink smooshing. Okay. So I will set my VersaFine Clear aside and set a few other things aside. Okay, and we're going to talk ink smooshing. So I've got my pattern piece here, and I'm going to just stay zoomed in because we're just going to zoom right back in here in a minute. Okay, so last week we used this ink set as well, the watercolor brush markers, the Winter Wonderland set. So we're going to use them again this week. I wanted to show you a different color combo. So last week we did ruby red, and we did a really watered down lagoon, and we did jet black and metallic silver. This week we're going to use rouge, citrus burst, lagoon again, and Persian blue. So I've got those out. And I'm adding the citrus burst in just to show you guys some more complementary or contrasting colors. In the original, I just did the 3. So you can see here, this is the rouge, and then the lagoon is this light blue here. And then the purpley color is the Persian blue. So it was really interesting the way that the colors ended up melding together. So you got more of a purple when the rouge and the Persian blue hit each other. And then you got more of a traditional blue when the lagoon and the Persian blue hit each other. It was really cool how this whole thing blended together. I wanted to throw in a little bit of yellow just to add in some more contrast. But here's the thing. So this is that really textured paper. It's a rough texture watercolor. And that means that when we do the ink smooshing, it's going to really pick up that texture as long as we don't have it too wet. Okay, so let's start with the Persian blue. So this Persian blue is maybe not what you expect it to be. Let me just show you the samples I have in the back. So Persian blue, it's almost kind of a purple. It's really pretty, but it can come across as purpley, which is why I did the purple inking on here. Okay, so this is just a plastic palette, and you can use a plastic palette, you can use glass, you can use a piece of ceramic, you can use a what is it called? A silicone mat. Anything will work. All right, so I've got my ink down on here, and I don't want it to be watered down too much, so I'm not adding too much water spray on here. All right, and then I'm just going to smush and lift. And look, so you get a really rough texture because I didn't put a lot of water on here and because of the texture of the paper. So let's try adding just a little more. And if I turn the paper a little bit, did you see that? I turned it just a little bit as I was going. Then that's when you're going to start getting a solid smush. Okay, so the cool thing about this is that I'm going to have like these little streaks of color. And yeah, I really like that a lot. Okay, so let's wipe this off. Now, if you watch the video, the technique video, you know that the best way to do this is to dry in between. Grab my heat tool here. I'm just going to dry this up. In the meantime, how's your week going? What kind of plans do you guys have for the weekend? All right. Okay. So if it looked dark when I did my initial smushing, don't fret because it always dries lighter than what it is when it's wet. So I wasn't too concerned about that looking super dark. I knew that it was going to lighten up as soon as it dried. Okay. So there is layer 1, and that is in Persian blue. Okay. So let's add some rouge to this mix. All right. So the rouge will end up in kind of a peachy shade. And when it hits the purple, we're going to have some blending. All right, so we're going to get a little bit of a blend in here. All right. So not too much. Okay, so let's dry this up again. Yeah, sounds like you guys have lots of great plans for the weekend. Nancy, I hope the Giants continue to win. That would be really fantastic. Becca's headed out to Phoenix for college visits. Paula might actually work on some Christmas cards, which would be kind of nice, right? Get ahead on those. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got going on here. So because we're drying in between, that's limiting the amount of bleed that you're going to get when you're doing this kind of smooshing. So you see how we've got these nice hard lines here. That's going to give you a little bit of a different look. But isn't that color change like really cool? So it's kind of more of a traditional purple. It's really, really pretty. And then we've got like this little blob that landed in here. Looks really cool. All right. But see, look, I got a little bit of dirty color in there. So we definitely want to clean that up. Pop in another color. So we've got, this looks shocking pink. Yeah. So sometimes the camera has a hard time picking up the colors. It shouldn't be too shocking. It should be more of a kind of a peachy color. So there, maybe that's a little better view of it for you. All right, so let's pop into some Lagoon, shall we? Susan is, ooh, Susan, I want to see those invitations. That sounds like fun. She did some invitations for a Halloween party. Okay, so we are into Lagoon. Beautiful blue-green color. And, ooh, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? I didn't even get any into the other two colors to blend. So let's get in there. There we go. So now I'm going to get some mixing here. And we'll bring it over to the other side. So you can see, like, I'm not just smushing down the entire panel. I'm just picking little chunks as I go and placing them down into the ink. All right. Nancy wants more salmon color. Okay, we'll see where we get. Yeah, there we go. It is kind of flamingo-y, Becca. So there we go. 3 colors down. Okay, we're going to add some yellow in, and then I kind of feel like Nancy, I agree. I think maybe we need a little bit more pink in here. But we're going to add in some yellow first. This is Citrus Burst. Okay, so out of anything, it should not really go well with the purple. But again, because we're controlling this with drying in between, and we're just, I'm just placing down different sections, I'm going to kind of control how much blending and mixing that we get along the way. Together. All right, so this is cool. So the yellow is turning the green, the Lagoon, into more of a green, which really has me wanting to put more green up here. Okay, so more yellow I put up there because I really like the way that was blending. And then here, the way that it's blending in with the pink is really cool. All right. And then what's interesting here is that even though this whole blob was that Persian, look at what the yellow did. It really bumped its way into there and made itself into this really cool shade of green because it's really pulling the blue from the Persian blue color. So let me clean this off real quick because it's got some contamination in there. And we're going to do just a little more yellow. I'm going to do... yeah. All right, so we're going to get that to blend in a little bit, the green and the, or the yellow and the blue there to make a really cool green. Look at this. Doing some really amazing things. I mean, it's almost like a rainbow sheet at this point. Okay, let's draw it up again. All right. Okay, so Becca, funny thing is that the microphone, I'm not actually muting it. When I turn on my heat tool, it's actually cutting out because it's got noise canceling on it. So as soon as it hears a lot of noise, it tries to cancel out the sound, and that actually ends up being everything because it's so loud. So that would be really cool if I could get it to flip automatically to some music. That would be pretty neat. Okay, so I'm loving the way this is turning out. We've got yellow and then we got some green in here because these two mixed together. We've got this really cool orange in here now that has gone over the pink. Okay, so what happened here is exactly what should happen when you're mixing complementary colors. So yellow and purple are complementary, and what I ended up getting here was more of a gray color. But two things. One, it's going to be covered up mostly by our little final envelope piece. And two, it's not so much. So it doesn't really bother me that that is there. All right, cool. So one thing, one last color. Let's go back into the rouge, because I think it needs more. All right, because I think I need some more rouge down here, like a big splotch of it to match this one up here. Like so. And then maybe like that. All right. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so one other thing I want to do, let me grab a paper towel. Okay, there's a ton more going on with this one than there was on the original project that I did. That's a-okay. But what I think I really would like to do is get some white in here. So I'm going to use my distress sprayer, just releasing it kind of slowly to get some water drops on here so I can lift up some of this color. All right, so when you just press gently, you get these big drops, okay, which is what I just did there. So I'm going to let this sit for a second, and that's going to pull up some of the ink. And then I'm going to take my paper towel and just cover that up. There you go. So now I've got some water spots on here. And again, I'm doing it this way. Again, it's kind of controlled, so you can kind of guide where you want your ink spots to end up. And I don't know what your question is. There. Okay, so now I've got some more white spots in there, which is what I was looking for. All right, one last dry up on this. Good. Oh, your palette is bowed. I just bend it. And then the smaller palettes are easier to bend the other direction. If you have a larger palette, then it might be a little harder to do. I would maybe even put it in some hot water, like super hot water, as hot as you can stand, and then try to bend it back while it's hot like that, or flatten it out with a bunch of heavy stuff on top of it while it's warm, so that way it kind of remolds. But I find that these little medium palettes or small palettes, whatever size this is, they don't bow too badly. All right. She's got the larger one. That might be part of the problem. I don't know if that one is thicker than the ones that I have too. All right. So we've got all of our ink smooshing done. Let me put away my brushes. And that, we need those eventually. We're done with that. Okay, so we've got our hugs. We've got our flowers, which I did previously. Nope, they look just so perfect in there. Like they could get lost right now. And we've got our envelope, and we've got our happy birthday. Okay, so with the envelope, what I'm going to do is hold these guys in. Apparently I didn't get the score marks on here as deeply as I could have. Yeah, the smooshing is kind of crazy. Love it though. All right, so get nice edges on there, and this bottom is gonna fold up. So now I have this cute little envelope with these little lines on there. All right, but I haven't glued anything together yet. All right, so this is going to come up through here. And remember, I said originally I did my little slit was like way down here. This time I'm going to bring it up a little higher. Okay, so what I want to do with this is temporarily, just going to put a little temporary tape on here. And then decide where this is going to go. And remember when we kind of misstamped here, I said, oh, no worries, we're going to put our envelope right here. All right, so that's where the envelope will go. So what I can do is go ahead and glue this down. All right, and the flap even is going to stay open, so you can glue on that too. Let me get this guy in place. All right. So there's the beginning of our interactive piece. So last week I kind of felt like I went through this interactive idea really fast. So if it was a blur to you, we're going to take just a little bit more time with it today. Okay, so this is all nice and dry. Yep, it's secure in place. Okay, so now I can take off my temporary tape here. Don't need that anymore. And open this up. All right, and so in the center here is where I'm going to put this little piece. All right, so this is the piece that Paula's going to lose. It has been preordained, and it's going to go right in here. So when you're doing an interactive piece, what you have to be cognizant of is like how far down it's going to go and making sure that it doesn't go past your panel, right? Otherwise you're going to run into problems. Otherwise, or too much is going to be sticking up or whatever. Okay. So if my opening is about here, that should work out just fine. So like I can see exactly where that opening is going to be. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and run this through my die machine. It's going to cut through both layers. All right. Okay. So if it doesn't cut through both layers, you can either finish cutting it with a craft knife or run it through again to see if it'll cut everything out, and maybe use a little shim. So I forgot, this watercolor paper is a little thicker, so it's possible that it would not cut through. But look, I got enough of it to cut through. So I'm just going to take my craft knife and cut through that bottom part. And there we go. So now I have my interactive space, the hole for the letter. All right, and this guy's gonna go right up through there. And in the end, we're gonna have that, right? So here's what I like to do. I'm gonna just put that there for this, for the moment. And now I can glue these guys. I don't really want to glue, I mean, I guess I could glue down towards the bottom here if I wanted to, because it's not going to get in the way of the little slit. You just want to make sure that you don't glue right over this, that it's going to impede your little piece going up and down. Right, and then my final flap. Okay. Now, put my sentiment down. Now I'm gonna put my little pull tab on here. Now this doesn't have a die. I just go ahead and snip it out when I need to do something like this. And of course you could use your paper cutter if you want to like get it perfect. But I'm okay with doing just that. And a little bit of glue here. And that's going to go right there. So we're just going to hold it for a second. Ah, Paula. Paula still has her little piece, but she hasn't opened her package yet. Use it. Okay. All right, so far so good. Now, to make sure that you've got your spacing in the back properly done, put it in its finished location. So let's say we want it to be there. Okay, now on the back side, then we know, whoops. You can, so put it where you want it, and then just hold it in place with a piece of temporary tape. And now you know on the back side where you can put glue. On the project that I did last week, I used 1/4-inch double-sided tape. This works really good because it's going to make sure that you have your little pocket all nice and covered. All right, so we can go down to the bottom there. But it's not like this needs to be so precise. You can actually get away with not putting this on here at all. What I do like doing for sure is making sure that I've got adhesive right above the opening here, so that way it stays nice and flat against your card base. So you don't really have to do this. You can just put glue all the way around it. If you're using liquid glue, make sure that you don't get so close to the edge that it runs the risk of grabbing your interactive element and gluing it in place, or putting glue in between the space here and then getting it on your card base and gluing it down so your interactive piece won't even go down, right? So we don't, we want to make sure that this area here remains free and clear for our interactive element to go back and forth. That's why I tack this down. So when I'm looking at the back side, I know exactly the clearance that I need for my interactive piece. Okay, so this week I will just do a little bit of double-sided adhesive here, and then we'll just glue around the rest of it. All right, so especially because this piece of watercolor card is pretty darn flat, so I'm not worried about having to secure down any stray edges or anything like that. All right, so I've got glue. Another reason to just stick with the double-sided adhesive is because then you don't have to deal with glue and adhesive. Right? We don't want to have to like have sticky fingers and all that kind of stuff. But it works this way too. Ooh, yeah, okay, so CC, if you don't have the stamp set, but you do have like a little envelope die or whatever, you can do the same concept and just cut a little slit inside of it to create your little interactive piece. Absolutely. All right, so I've got a nice big border around this one, which is really great because we've got all this color going on, right? So we need to balance it with a neutral. We need to balance it with a white or a black. A black would look really dramatic. That would look really fabulous, as a matter of fact. But yeah, it needs to have a nice solid neutral to help frame that up and keep it from being too crazy. All right, especially because we got all of the colors on this one. On the other one, it was really just like 3 colors that kind of blended nice together. This is more like a rainbow style. So need to have a neutral. Okay, so we can take off our temporary here and test out our interactive. So before you finish your project, always test out your interactive. Make sure it's working the way you expect it to. A little pull here decided it didn't want to stick very well. Just needs some more drying time. All right, but everything is working nicely. Okay, so now I can get that back down in place. I don't know what's up with my pull tab. I might not have left a long enough tail on it. I might replace that. Okay, so now I just need to finish that off. And basically what I'm doing here is using the flowers to hide the sentiment, because I want it to be kind of a surprise that it's like a birthday card. If you wanted to, you could move your flowers off however you choose. All right, it doesn't really matter. You could do it that if you want, or you can cover them up completely, either way. All right, so those will get glued down. Again, when you're gluing them, you'd be better off putting the glue on the part of the envelope that isn't around the slit for the interactive piece, and not putting it on the back of your element here, because if you happen to glue it down and then you glue it onto your interactive piece, then you're not going to be very happy. All right. So let's just do something like that and stick it down. And then my hugs, of course, they've got the double-sided adhesive on them, so they can just get placed down. These are not too hard to place in a row, so I'm not really worried about them kind of going wonky or anything, like, or going downhill. It's just the 4 letters, so they're not too hard to place. All right, and because I've got the adhesive on the back, that makes it so easy to put these down. You don't have to worry about getting gunk all over your hands. Works out really nice. If you're afraid that your spacing isn't going to work out, work backwards. Start with the S because we know that that has a final location over here. And then work your way backwards. There we go. So cute. And we need some sequins. All right, so again, some neutral sequins to help break some of this up a little bit. And I've been using my jewel picker, my Marvy jewel picker. And it is Marvy. It is wonderful. Especially for these little ones. See, look at how easy I can just pick that up now. All right, so I always do my 3 sequins in a tight triangle. So I've got my little tiny one already on my picker here. And then I'll use the large one along with it. And then down here, we'll go a medium one. And there it is. Okay. So yeah, so we've got like our nice little sequins to play off of our little hugs. We've got, oh, yep, we're going to replace this. No. So like I said, I think what happened is I cut this little area here too short and it just is liking to slide all over the place. And that makes me not happy. So I will stamp a new one. And give myself plenty of room. All right, because no one's going to see how long that is on the back. They're not going to look. All right, that should be much, much better. All right, so we've got that one. And we've got our original. So now we can look at our little contrast here. So we've got this one where I did a ton of ink smushing. We added in an extra color. We added in the yellow. So it was 4 colors. It was Persian Blue and Citrus Burst is the yellow and Lagoon and Rouge. All right, so those are the 4 colors. And then on the original one, I did a more linear design with just 3 colors. So we had the Rouge and the Persian Blue and the Lagoon in kind of a more central location. And otherwise, the hugs basically stayed the same. But we've got 2 different looks. Same concept with the ink smushing, the controlled ink smushing, and using some complementary colors and creating really cool looks with that. So adding in the yellow really changed this one up completely. But I really like it. It is crazy. Crazy colors, but balanced with white. So that's, again, super important. You can do crazy colors if you balance them well. All right. There it is, guys. Fun card, fun project. So now that I've got this dry, oh yeah, see, look at that's much more solid on there. And then I can pull that out. So what I like better about this one is that I planned a little better and you can get the whole sentiment out. This one is pulled out completely and you don't get the whole sentiment. You have to like look down in there to see it all. It still gets the point across. So don't think that if this happens to you that that's a mess up and you need to try it again. This still works. All right. So either way, fabulous project. And there you go. So if you were looking for some inspiration this weekend, you've got it. You can do some ink smooshing. You can have some fun with watercolor, and you can do some stamping in some other colors than black. You can do some interactive projects and have some really great birthday cards or any day cards for you and your friends. All right, guys, I loved spending some time with you today. I'm so glad that you popped in. If you liked today's video, of course, give it a thumbs up on the way out so YouTube knows to serve you up with more great content from my channel. And don't forget to check over on my homepage over on YouTube, because I've got next week's ready to go. You can get a reminder for that. And stop over on my blog in about an hour and pick up your very own step-by-step PDF. You know you want it. Okay, guys, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you here again next week. Until then, guys, happy crafting.